A chance encounter at an upscale Chicago steakhouse. A mysterious envelope with a life-changing tip. A note that simply read, "Sometimes the smallest kindnesses matter most." When Marcus Reyes, a 43-year-old waiter at Gibson's Steakhouse, serves basketball legend Michael Jordan one ordinary Tuesday night, he has no idea his life is about to change forever. The $10,000 tip Jordan leaves behind seems completely random. An inexplicable act of generosity from a celebrity known for his competitive spirit more than his sentimentality. But nothing about this gesture is random. The connection between these two men stretches back 25 years to a hospital room where a dying boy, a grieving basketball star, and a devoted brother shared a moment of genuine humanity that would echo across decades. As Marcus discovers the true reason behind Jordan's generosity, both men find that the smallest acts of kindness can create ripples that transform lives in ways neither could have imagined. Marcus Reyes rubbed his tired back as he prepared for another busy night at Gibson's Steakhouse. After 15 years of waiting tables at the famous Chicago restaurant, his body reminded him daily that he wasn't getting any younger. At 43, the long hours on his feet were taking a toll, but he never complained. Gibson's was the best restaurant job in the city, and the tips kept his family afloat. "Hey, Marcus, you're taking Section 3 tonight," said Tammy, the hostess, as she checked her tablet. "Looks like a slow Tuesday so far." Marcus nodded, secretly relieved. Slow nights were easier on his knee, the one that still ached when rain was coming, a souvenir from his basketball days that seemed like another lifetime ago. He straightened his black tie and smoothed down his crisp white shirt. Gibson's Steakhouse had strict rules about appearance. Located in the heart of Chicago's Gold Coast neighborhood, the restaurant was a regular stop for celebrities, especially sports stars. During the Bulls' championship years in the 1990s, the entire team would sometimes take over the back room to celebrate their victories. "Heads up," Tammy's voice dropped to a whisper as she passed by again. "Michael Jordan just called for a table. He's bringing a small group." Marcus felt his heart skip. Even after all these years in Chicago, hearing that name still brought a rush of excitement. Michael Jordan wasn't just a basketball player. He was Chicago royalty. "Is he in your section?" asked Carlos, another waiter who had overheard. "Looks like it," Marcus replied, trying to sound casual, though his stomach was suddenly doing flip-flops. 40 minutes later, Marcus watched as the hostess led Jordan and 3 other men to table 12 in his section. Even at 62, Jordan commanded the room without trying. He walked with the same confidence he'd shown on the court, though a bit slower now. He wore a perfectly tailored gray suit that probably cost more than Marcus made in 3 months. Marcus gave them a few minutes to settle in before approaching the table. He'd learned that celebrities appreciated being treated normally, not fawned over. Taking a deep breath, he walked over with 4 waters and his best professional smile. "Good evening, gentlemen. Welcome to Gibson's. My name is Marcus, and I'll be taking care of you tonight." Jordan looked up, and Marcus was struck by his eyes. They weren't the fierce, competitive eyes he remembered from countless Bulls games he'd watched on his small TV. They seemed tired, maybe even sad. "Thank you, Marcus," Jordan said with a nod. His voice was quieter than Marcus expected. Marcus handed out the menus and described the evening's specials with practiced ease, despite his racing heart. One of Jordan's companions, a man with silver hair who Marcus recognized as a Hornets executive, asked detailed questions about the wine list. Another talked loudly on his phone, despite the restaurant's policy against it. The third man, younger than the others, barely looked up from his own phone. Throughout the meal, Marcus provided perfect service. Water glasses never less than half. Full, plates cleared promptly. New silverware for each course. Jordan mostly listened as his companions discussed business, occasionally nodding or offering short responses. He ordered the bone-in ribeye, Gibson's most famous cut, but barely touched the sides. Marcus noticed he seemed distracted, his mind somewhere else entirely. "Is everything tasting good, sir?" Marcus asked when he checked on them midway through. The main course, Jordan looked up, seeming to really see Marcus for the first time. "Everything's excellent. Thank you for asking." He paused, studying Marcus's face. "Have you worked here long?" 15 years next month, sir." Jordan nodded slowly. "You look familiar somehow." "I've been told I have one of those faces," Marcus said with a smile, though his heart was racing again. Had Jordan recognized him from all those years ago? Impossible. As the evening progressed, Marcus noticed Jordan checking his watch several times. When it came time for dessert, Jordan declined while his companions ordered the chocolate cake to share. While serving the cake, Marcus accidentally bumped Jordan's water glass, splashing a few drops on the tablecloth. "I'm so sorry, sir," Marcus said, mortified by the mistake. "Don't worry about it," Jordan said, moving his napkin to cover the small wet spot. There was unexpected kindness in his voice that made Marcus look up. Their eyes met briefly, and Marcus saw something in Jordan's expression. A flash of recognition, perhaps? But then it was gone. When the bill came, Jordan's silver-haired companion reached for it, but Jordan intercepted it. "I've got this one. Phil!" He handed over his black card without even looking at the total. As the men prepared to leave, Jordan hung back while his companions headed toward the door. He pulled an envelope from his suit jacket. "Marcus," he said quietly, "you provided excellent service tonight." "Thank you, sir." "It was my pleasure," Marcus replied, standing straighter. Jordan held out the envelope. "Don't open this until after I leave, all right?" Marcus took the envelope, confused but nodding. "Of course, Mr. Jordan. Thank you." "Sometimes we cross paths with people for a reason," Jordan said, his voice so low Marcus barely caught the words. Then, with a final nod, he turned and walked away, joining his waiting companions at the door. Marcus slipped the envelope into his pocket, assuming it contained the kind of generous tip celebrities sometimes left. Maybe $100, or even $2. Jordan had always been known as a big tipper, one of the reasons servers at Gibson's hoped to get his table. As he cleared the dishes, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that something strange had just happened. Why had Jordan singled him out? And why had those dark eyes seemed so familiar in their sadness, like looking in a mirror on his worst days? He finished cleaning the table, reset it with fresh linens, and continued with his shift, the envelope burning in his pocket like a mystery waiting to be solved. Whatever was inside, Marcus knew that this Tuesday night had suddenly become anything but ordinary. Marcus finished his last table at 11:30, later than usual for a Tuesday. The restaurant had filled up unexpectedly after Jordan's party left, as if word had spread that the basketball legend had been dining there. His fingers kept brushing against the envelope in his pocket throughout his shift, but he kept his promise not to open it until after Jordan was gone. In the break room, Marcus hung up his apron and sat down heavily on the wooden bench. His knee throbbed after the busy night. Carlos and Tammy were counting their tips at the small table nearby. "So?" Carlos asked, raising his eyebrows. "What did His Airness give you?" Marcus pulled out the envelope. It was cream-colored and heavy, made of expensive paper. His name was written on the front in neat handwriting. He carefully opened it, not wanting to tear whatever was inside. His hands froze when he saw what it contained. "Marcus, "You okay, man?" Carlos asked, leaning forward. Marcus couldn't speak. He pulled out a check and stared at it, blinking hard to make sure he wasn't seeing things. The check was made out to Marcus Reyes for $10,000. "Holy," he whispered, his voice failing him. "What is it?" Tammy asked, coming closer. Marcus handed her the check, his hands shaking slightly. Her eyes widened. $10,000? She gasped. "From Jordan?" Carlos rushed over, his mouth dropping open when he saw the check. "Dude, that's insane. What did you do? Save his life or something?" Marcus shook his head, still stunned. "Nothing. I just served his table like any other." He reached back into the envelope and found a small note card. On it was written in the same neat handwriting, "Thank you for your service tonight. Sometimes the smallest kindnesses matter most." Marcus read the note 3 times, trying to understand. What kindness was Jordan talking about? And why him? "You've got to be the luckiest guy in Chicago right now," Carlos said, a hint of jealousy in his voice. "That's what, 3 months' salary?" Marcus nodded slowly. It was actually closer to 4 months of what he made at Gibson's. Money that could solve so many problems for his family. "You think it's real?" Tammy asked carefully. "It's real," said a voice from the doorway. Rick, their manager, was standing there. "Jordan's a big tipper, but this is something else." "Congratulations, Marcus. Must have been some impressive service." Marcus carefully put the check back in the envelope. "I need to call Sophia." He stepped outside into the cool Chicago night and pulled out his phone. It was almost midnight, but his wife would still be up waiting for him. Sophia answered on the second ring. "Hey, how was work?" she asked. He could hear the TV playing softly in the background. "You're not going to believe what happened." His voice cracked slightly. "Michael Jordan came in tonight." "The Michael Jordan? That's cool." Sophia sounded tired, but interested. "Was he nice?" "He gave me a tip." Marcus paused, leaning against the brick wall of the restaurant. "Soph, he gave me $10,000. The silence that followed lasted so long that Marcus thought the call had dropped. "Sophia? You there?" "That's not funny, Marcus." Her voice was tight. "I'm not joking. I'm holding the check right now. $10,000 made out to me." He heard her sharp intake of breath. "Dios mío! Why? Why would he do that?" "I don't know." Marcus looked up at the night sky, barely able to see stars through Chicago's light pollution. He wrote a note saying something about small kindnesses, but "I didn't do anything special. I just did my job." He heard Sophia start to cry softly. Not sad tears, the overwhelmed kind that came when something seemed too good to be true. "Lucia's treatment," she whispered. "I know." Marcus felt his own eyes growing wet. This covers it, with money left over. Their 8-year-old daughter Lucia had been fighting juvenile arthritis for 3 years. The latest treatment her doctor recommended cost $7,500, and their insurance would only cover a small portion. They had been saving for months, but were still far short. "Maybe it's a mistake," Sophia said, her practical nurse's mind kicking in. "Maybe he meant to write 100 or 1,000. The manager said it's real, and Jordan's known for being generous with tips." Marcus took a deep breath. "I'll deposit it first thing tomorrow, just to be sure." When Marcus got home 30 minutes later, Sophia was waiting up for him in their small living room. She hugged him tightly when he showed her the check, both of them looking at it in disbelief. "Did he say anything else?" she asked, as they sat on their worn couch. "Not really." Marcus frowned, remembering. "He did say I looked familiar, but I figured he was just being polite." "Have you ever served him before?" No, never. And I would have remembered. Marcus rubbed his knee absently. The weird thing is, he seemed sad somehow. Not like you'd expect Michael Jordan to be. Sophia rested her head on his shoulder. Famous people have problems too, I guess. Yeah, Marcus stared at the check again. But why me? Don't question miracles, Sophia said, squeezing his hand. Just be grateful. They stayed up late talking about what this meant for them. Besides Lucia's treatment, they could finally fix the car that kept breaking down, maybe even start a small college fund for her. As he lay in bed that night, Marcus couldn't sleep. He kept seeing Jordan's eyes, dark and somehow familiar in their sadness. There was a connection there, something just out of reach in his memory. Though, next morning, Marcus took the check to their bank before his shift. The teller's eyes widened when she saw it, but she processed it without question. As Marcus watched her stamp the deposit slip, he felt both relieved and uneasy. The money would change everything for his family. But the mystery remained. Why had one of the greatest basketball players of all time given a life-changing tip to a waiter he didn't know? Or did he? Marcus walked home from the bank, taking the long way through Harrison Park. The morning was cool for May, with spring flowers pushing up through the soil. His mind was still spinning from the events of the previous night. $10,000. It didn't seem real. The small, two-bedroom apartment in Pilsen that he shared with Sophia and Lucia was on the third floor of an old brick building. It wasn't fancy, but it was home. The neighborhood had changed over the years, fancier coffee shops and art galleries moving in, but it still held on to its Mexican-American roots that reminded Sophia of her childhood. As Marcus climbed the stairs, he could hear Lucia's laughter through the door. The sound made him smile. His daughter's joy was the most precious thing in his world. He found Lucia at the kitchen table, working on a school project. Paper, markers, and glue sticks were scattered across the surface. She looked up when he entered, her dark eyes, so much like Sophia's, lighting up. "Dad! Mom said you had a famous person at your restaurant." Marcus bent down to kiss the top of her head. "I sure did, mija. Michael Jordan himself." Lucia's eyes widened. "The Michael Jordan? The one on my poster?" "The very same." Marcus glanced at the Chicago Bulls poster that hung on their living room wall. Jordan soaring through the air, tongue out, in his famous dunk pose. Sophia emerged from their tiny bedroom, dressed in her blue nurse's scrubs for her shift at Cook County Hospital. "Did you take care of the check?" she asked quietly. Marcus nodded. "All set. Should clear in a few days." Sophia's shoulders relaxed visibly. She looked younger suddenly, some of the worry lines around her eyes softening. "I called Dr. Patel's office. They can get Lucia in for the first treatment next week if we make the down payment today." "I'm getting a new treatment?" Lucia asked, looking up from her project. Marcus sat down next to his daughter. "That's right. It might help your joints feel better, so you won't have as much pain." Lucia considered this with the serious face she often wore when discussing her condition. A face too grown up for an 8-year-old. "Will I be able to play basketball again?" The question squeezed Marcus's heart. Before her diagnosis, Lucia had loved shooting hoops with him at the neighborhood court. Now, on bad days, she could barely hold a pencil without pain. "We hope so, sweetheart. This treatment has helped other kids a lot." Lucia nodded and returned to her project, a diorama of the solar system. Marcus watched her small hands carefully gluing a tiny Earth to its wire orbit. Her fingers were slightly swollen today, not a good sign. After Sophia left for her shift and Lucia was settled in front of the TV watching cartoons, Marcus went to their bedroom and reached up to the top shelf of the closet. He pulled down an old shoebox filled with mementos he rarely looked at anymore. Inside were newspaper clippings, photographs, and a folded blue and red jersey with Reyes 23 on the back, his old DePaul University basketball uniform. Marcus had chosen the number because of Jordan, like so many kids growing up in Chicago during the Bulls' championship years. He sifted through the photos, his younger self in mid-jump shot, cutting down the net after a conference championship, arm in arm with teammates. A lifetime ago, before the injury, before reality had crushed his dreams. Marcus had been good. Not NBA good, but good enough to earn a full scholarship to DePaul, one of Chicago's top basketball programs, coming from his neighborhood that had been a miracle in itself. Basketball was supposed to be his ticket out of poverty, his way to give his family a better life than his parents had. Then came the conference finals his junior year. One bad landing, a twist of his knee, and a tear no surgery could fully repair. His scholarship continued, but his basketball career was over. The doctors had told him he'd never play competitively again. For months afterward, Marcus had fallen into a dark place, his identity shattered. Who was he if not a basketball player? It took years to rebuild himself. He finished his degree in communications, but the jobs he'd hoped for never materialized. He started waiting tables to pay the bills, fell in love with Sophia, and eventually found peace with his new path. Sophia had been his rock during those difficult years. They'd met at a mutual friend's party when Marcus was still angry at the world. For taking away his dream, she'd called him out on his self-pity, telling him everyone had disappointments in life. It was what you did afterward that mattered. Marcus put the photo album aside and pulled out one more item from the box, a small hospital wristband. It hadn't been his, but his brother, Mateo's. The sight of it still brought a pang of grief after all these years. Mateo had been 2 years younger than Marcus, always following his big brother around the neighborhood courts, trying to copy his moves. When Mateo was diagnosed with leukemia at 16, Marcus had spent every moment he could at his brother's bedside at Cook County Hospital. Even with his busy basketball schedule at DePaul, he'd visit daily, often doing homework in the uncomfortable hospital chair while Mateo slept. Marcus rubbed his thumb over the faded wristband. Mateo had fought hard, but the cancer had been too aggressive. He died 6 months after his diagnosis, with Marcus holding his hand. The familiar guilt washed over Marcus, survivor's guilt that had never fully gone away. Why had he gotten to live his life, have a family, while Mateo's future had been stolen? When Lucia was diagnosed with juvenile arthritis 3 years ago, the fear had nearly paralyzed Marcus. History seemed to be repeating itself. But this time was different. Arthritis wasn't cancer. With proper treatment, Lucia could live a normal life, if they could afford it. Even with both Marcus and Sophia working, the medical bills had steadily drained their savings. Their insurance covered the basic treatments, but not the newer, more effective ones that might put Lucia's condition into remission. Every extra penny went toward medical expenses, leaving little for emergencies or Lucia's future. And now, out of nowhere, this gift from Jordan had appeared. $10,000. Exactly what they needed for Lucia's new treatment, and some breathing room financially. Marcus carefully returned everything to the shoebox, except for one photograph he'd forgotten was there. It showed the children's ward at Cook County Hospital, decorated for Christmas. In the background, barely visible, was a tall man surrounded by a crowd of children and parents. Marcus squinted at the photo. It had been taken during his brother's hospital stay. He remembered that day. A famous person had visited the ward. Some celebrity who'd posed for photos, signed autographs, and then left. Was it possible? Marcus shook his head. He couldn't even see the visitor's face clearly in the photo. It was probably just his imagination working overtime, trying to make sense of Jordan's unexpected generosity. He put the photo back in the box and returned it to the closet shelf. That evening, as he helped Lucia with her bath, carefully washing her sore joints with warm water, she asked him, "Dad, why did Michael Jordan give you so much money?" Marcus had been wondering the same thing all day. "I'm not sure, sweetheart. Sometimes people just do kind things for others. Like when Ms. Rodriguez brought us dinner when I was in the hospital." Exactly like that. Marcus gently dried her small hands. The world can be a hard place sometimes, but there are good people who help each other when they can. "When I grow up, I want to help people too," Lucia said, her face solemn. "Like Mom does." Marcus smiled, his heart full. "You will, Mija. You already do. Just by being you." Later that night, after Lucia was asleep, Marcus sat at their small kitchen table, writing a thank you note to Jordan. He wasn't sure if the basketball star would ever read it, or even how to get it to him, but he needed to express his gratitude somehow. As he wrote, Marcus kept coming back to Jordan's words. Sometimes the smallest kindnesses matter most, wondering what kindness Jordan believed he had shown. The mystery remained, like a half-remembered dream. But as Marcus signed his name to the note, he decided some gifts didn't need to be fully understood to be appreciated. Sometimes, they just needed to be passed forward. The next morning, Marcus stared at the thank you note on the kitchen table. He'd written and rewritten it several times, trying to find the right words. How do you thank someone for changing your child's life? Still working on that? Sophia asked as she poured herself coffee. She was off work today, a rare weekday, at home. It doesn't seem enough, Marcus replied, pushing the paper toward her. Just words on a page. Sophia read the note, her eyes softening. It's perfect, Marcus. Simple and honest. Marcus sighed. But how do I even get it to him? It's not like Michael Jordan is listed in the phone book. He owns the Charlotte Hornets, right? You could send it to their office. Sophia sat down across from him. But maybe add something personal, something that shows what this means to us. Like what? Sophia thought for a moment. What about a picture of Lucia? The one from the park with her basketball? Marcus nodded slowly. It was a perfect photo. Lucia sitting in her wheelchair at the neighborhood court, proudly holding her miniature basketball, wearing her 2023 Bulls jersey. They'd taken it a few months ago on one of her good days when they could go outside. I still don't understand it, Marcus said, turning his coffee mug in circles. Jordan seemed different, quiet, almost sad. Famous people have problems too, Sophia repeated her words from the night before. Money and fame don't protect you from loss or pain. Marcus thought about Jordan's well-known history. His father's murder in 1993, his first retirement from basketball, his comeback. Even legends faced tragedy. I'm going to look him up, Marcus decided, pulling his laptop from the kitchen counter. Maybe there's something in the news. About what? Sophia asked, raising an eyebrow. I don't know. Something that might explain why he'd give a random waiter $10,000. Marcus spent the next hour searching for news about Michael Jordan. There were plenty of articles about the Charlotte Hornets' recent games, Jordan's business ventures, and charity events, but nothing unusual or personal. No recent losses or health scares that might explain his subdued mood at Gibson's. Sophia leaned over his shoulder as he scrolled through yet another sports website. Maybe it's not about him at all. Maybe he really did just recognize you from somewhere. But from where? Marcus closed the laptop in frustration. I've never met Michael Jordan before. Are you sure? Sophia asked gently. Chicago's not that big for someone like him. Maybe your paths crossed years ago. Marcus shook his head. I would remember meeting Michael Jordan. They were interrupted by the sound of Lucia's crutches in the hallway. On bad days like today, she needed them to walk. Mom? Dad? Can we call Dr. Patel now? About the new medicine? Sophia and Marcus exchanged a look. They'd told Lucia about the treatment, but not about the check from Jordan. They had decided to keep that private. Children didn't need to know about financial struggles or unexpected windfalls. I already called this morning, Sophia said, helping Lucia to a chair. We have an appointment next Wednesday. Lucia's face lit up. Really? That soon? Really? Marcus confirmed, pushing away thoughts of Jordan for the moment. Lucia's smile was all that mattered. Later that afternoon, while Lucia napped and Sophia went to pick up groceries, Marcus printed the photo of Lucia at the basketball court. Looking at her hopeful face, her Bulls jersey too big for her small frame, he made his decision. He would send the thank you note and photo to the Charlotte Hornets' main office, addressed to Jordan personally. Whether the basketball star would ever see it was uncertain, but Marcus needed to complete this circle of gratitude. He wrote the final version of his note with care. Dear Mr. Jordan, there are no words that can fully express my gratitude for your generosity. Tuesday night at Gibson's. The check you gave me will allow my daughter Lucia to receive a treatment for her juvenile arthritis that we otherwise couldn't afford. I'm not sure why you chose to help me, but I want you to know what a difference it will make in an 8-year-old girl's life. Lucia loves basketball, just like her dad did. Before her condition worsened, she would spend hours shooting hoops at our neighborhood court. Her dream is to play again someday. I've enclosed a photo of Lucia in her favorite jersey. Your number, of course. She's your biggest fan, with deepest thanks. Marcus Reyes Marcus read it over once more, folded it carefully, and placed it in an envelope with the photo. He addressed it to the Charlotte Hornets headquarters in North Carolina, adding ATTN Michael Jordan, personal, on the envelope. After Ifees, dropping it in the mailbox on the corner, Marcus felt a weight lift from his shoulders. He had done what he could to express his thanks. The rest was out of his hands. That evening, as they ate dinner together, Lucia asked out of nowhere, Dad, do you think Michael Jordan remembers every basketball game he played? Marcus considered the question. Probably not every single one. He played hundreds of games in his career. But he'd remember the important ones, right? The championships and stuff? I'm sure he does, Marcus answered, curious about her train of thought. Why do you ask? Lucia shrugged, pushing her food around her plate. I was just thinking about how I can't remember what it feels like to play basketball without hurting. I don't want to forget. Marcus felt his throat tighten. You won't forget, Mija. And soon, with this new treatment, maybe you'll make new memories of playing. Promise? Her dark eyes, so serious, locked onto his. I promise we'll do everything we can, Marcus said carefully. He had learned long ago not to make promises he couldn't keep. That night, as Marcus fell asleep, his mind drifted back to Jordan's, sad eyes across the table at Gibson's. There had been something familiar there, some shared understanding he couldn't place. Soon, he dreamed of basketball courts and hospital corridors, the two worlds blending together in his subconscious, searching for a connection that remained just out of reach. 2 weeks passed. Lucia had her first treatment at Dr. Patel's office, an IV infusion that left her tired but hopeful. Marcus picked up extra shifts at Gibson's, determined to save additional money for future treatments. Life returned to its normal rhythm, though the mystery of Jordan's generosity still lingered in Marcus's mind. He didn't expect to hear anything back from his thank you note. Celebrities like Jordan probably received thousands of letters from fans and never saw most of them. Still, Marcus had done what he could to express his gratitude. On a rainy Wednesday afternoon, Marcus's phone rang while he was getting ready for his evening shift. The caller ID showed an unfamiliar number with a North Carolina area code. "Hello?" he answered, balancing the phone between his ear and shoulder as he tied his shoes. "Is this Marcus Reyes?" asked a woman's professional voice. "Yes, this is Marcus." "Mr. Reyes, my name is Andrea Wilson. I'm calling on behalf of Michael Jordan and the Charlotte Hornets organization." Marcus froze, his shoelace forgotten. "Yes?" "Mr. Jordan received your letter and photo." The woman's tone warmed slightly. "He was touched by your story about your daughter Lucia." "Oh, that's good to hear." Marcus stammered, unsure what else to say. "Mr. Jordan would like to extend an invitation to you and your family," Andrea continued. "The Hornets will be playing the Bulls in Chicago next Friday. He would like to provide VIP tickets for you, your wife, and your daughter." Marcus sat down heavily on the edge of his bed. "VIP tickets?" "Yes, sir. 3 seats near the Hornets bench. And Mr. Jordan would like to meet with your family briefly after the game, if that would be possible." "Meet with your family." The words echoed in Marcus's head. Michael Jordan wanted to meet Lucia. "Mr. Reyes? Are you still there?" "Yes, sorry," Marcus said quickly. "That's incredibly generous. We would be honored." "Excellent. I'll email the details to you. Would the email address from your letter be best?" "Yes, that's perfect. Thank you." After hanging up, Marcus stared at the phone in disbelief. Not only had Jordan received his letter, but he was now inviting them to a game and offering to meet with them afterward. It made no sense, unless Jordan really did recognize him from somewhere. When Marcus told Sophia that evening, she was equally shocked. VIP seats? Those must cost a fortune. "And he wants to meet Lucia after the game," Marcus added, still processing it all. Sophia's eyes widened. "Why? I mean, it's wonderful, but I don't know." Marcus shook his head. "Maybe he does charity, work with kids who have juvenile arthritis? Maybe the photo of Lucia touched him somehow?" "Well, whatever the reason, this will be the highlight of Lucia's life," Sophia said. "Meeting her basketball hero, she'll never forget it." They decided to tell Lucia that weekend, not wanting her to have to wait too long. On Saturday morning, they sat her down in the living room. "Mija, we have a surprise for you," Marcus began, trying to contain his excitement. "A good surprise?" Lucia asked cautiously. In her experience, surprises sometimes meant doctor visits or hospital stays. "The best surprise," Sophia assured her. "Remember how Dad met Michael Jordan at his restaurant?" Lucia nodded, her eyes already widening with anticipation. "Well," Marcus continued, "Mr. Jordan has invited us, all 3 of us, to see the Hornets play the Bulls next Friday, with special seats right near the players." Lucia's mouth dropped open. "Really? We're going to see Michael Jordan? And that's not all," Sophia added, unable to hold back her smile. "After the game, you're going to meet him." For a moment, Lucia sat perfectly still, as if afraid any movement might make the surprise disappear. Then she launched herself from the couch, ignoring the pain in her joints, and threw her arms around Marcus. "Thank you, thank you, thank you," she squealed, squeezing him tight. "Don't thank me," Marcus laughed, hugging her back. "Thank Mr. Jordan." "I will. I'll thank him 1,000,000 times." Lucia was bouncing now, more animated than they'd seen her in months. "Can I wear my Bulls jersey? Do you think he'll sign it? Will he remember you?" The questions tumbled out one after another, and Marcus couldn't help laughing at her enthusiasm. This was exactly what Lucia needed. Something wonderful to look forward to. A reason to smile through the pain of her daily treatments. The next week crawled by for Lucia, but flew past for Marcus and Sophia as they prepared for the big night. They made sure Lucia's treatments were scheduled to avoid any conflicts, and Marcus arranged to take the evening off from Gibson's. Finally, Friday arrived. Marcus had never seen Lucia so excited. She insisted on wearing her Bulls jersey, the TT, same one from the photo they'd sent Jordan, over a long-sleeved shirt, since the arenas were always cold. Sophia helped her with her hair, tying it back in a neat ponytail with a red scrunchie. "How do I look?" Lucia asked, twirling carefully in front of them. "Beautiful," Sophia said, her eyes suspiciously bright. "Like the world's biggest Bulls fan," Marcus added with a grin. They arrived at the United Center early, following the instructions in Andrea Wilson's email. A Hornets staff member met them at a side entrance, away from the main crowd. "The Reyes family? I'm Kevin, Mr. Jordan's assistant. For tonight," the young man smiled, handing them special passes on lanyards. "These will get you to your seats and the private area after the game." He led them through a series of hallways and finally out to the arena floor. Marcus had been to Bulls games before, but never with seats like these, 5 rows up from the court, directly behind the visitors' bench where the Hornets would sit. "These are amazing seats," Marcus whispered to Sophia as they settled in. "I can't believe we're really here," she whispered back. Lucia sat between them, her eyes huge as she took in the massive arena slowly filling with fans. When the teams came out for warm-ups, she grabbed Marcus's arm so tightly it almost hurt. "Dad! There he is! Michael Jordan!" Jordan wasn't playing, of course. He was the team owner now, not a player, but he was standing near the Hornets bench in a perfectly tailored suit, talking with coaches and staff. Even from a distance, his presence commanded attention. Throughout the game, Lucia was completely absorbed, cheering for both teams. "I like the Bulls best, but Mr. Jordan owns the Hornets, so I have to cheer for them too." The Bulls were winning by a narrow margin, and the crowd was electric. During a timeout in the fourth quarter, Jordan glanced over at their section. His eyes found Marcus, and he gave a small nod of recognition. Marcus nodded back, still amazed that any of this was happening. The Bulls won by 3 points in an exciting finish. As the crowd began to disperse, Kevin returned to escort them to a private room behind the arena. "Mr. Jordan will join you shortly," he said, showing them to comfortable chairs. "Can I get you anything while you wait? Water? Soda?" Lucia was too excited to sit. "Do you think he'll really come? Will he talk to me?" "He will," Marcus assured her, though part of him still wondered what all this was about. 10 minutes later, the door opened and Michael Jordan walked in. In person, he seemed even taller than Marcus remembered from the restaurant. Jordan smiled when he saw Lucia's Bulls jersey. "So you're a Bulls fan, even though your dad supports the Hornets tonight?" he asked her, his deep voice gentle. Lucia was momentarily speechless, staring up at her hero with wide eyes. Then she found her voice. "I like both teams, but the Bulls are my favorite because of you, even though you don't play anymore." Jordan laughed. A real laugh, not the polite one Marcus had heard at Gibson's. "That's fair. You must be Lucia. He knelt down to her level, an unexpectedly humble gesture from a man of his stature, and offered his hand to shake. Lucia took it, carefully, her small hand disappearing in his famous palm. I hear you're a basketball player too, Jordan said. Lucia's face fell slightly. I was, but my joints hurt too much now. I understand about injuries, Jordan said, his tone serious. I had plenty in my career, but you know what? Sometimes you can come back stronger. That's what my dad says, Lucia replied, glancing at Marcus. He hurt his knee playing basketball too. Jordan looked up at Marcus with interest. Is that right? Where did you play? DePaul, Marcus answered. Nothing like your career, of course, just college ball. DePaul's a good program, Jordan said with a nod. What position? Shooting guard. Like father, like daughter, huh? Jordan smiled at Lucia again. He reached behind him, where Kevin was waiting with a basketball. I have something for you. He handed Lucia the ball. It was signed not just by Jordan, but by the entire Hornets team. Lucia's eyes widened as she carefully took it in her hands. This is the best present ever, she whispered, looking from the ball to Jordan and back again. Wait till you see what else I brought. Jordan nodded to Kevin, who stepped out and returned with a Hornets jersey, child-sized, with the number 23 and Reyes printed on the back. Lucia gasped. It has my name. Now you can support both teams, Jordan explained with a wink. While Sophia helped Lucia try on the jersey over her Bulls one, Jordan turned to Marcus. Could we speak privately for a moment? Sophia caught Marcus's eye and nodded. Slightly. Lucia and I will see if Kevin can show us where the players exit. Maybe we can get a few more signatures on your ball. After they left with Kevin, Marcus found himself alone with Michael Jordan. The basketball legend's expression had changed, becoming more serious. I want to explain about the tip, Jordan said quietly. It wasn't random. Marcus felt his heart skip a beat at Jordan's words. The basketball legend gestured to the chairs, and they both sat down. When I first saw you at Gibson's, Jordan continued, I knew you looked familiar, but I couldn't place it that night. It was only later, after I left, that I remembered. Marcus leaned forward slightly. Remembered what? Jordan's expression grew distant, his eyes focusing on something far away. It was 1993. Not a good year for me. Marcus nodded, knowing what Jordan was referring to. That was the year Jordan's father, James, had been murdered, a tragedy that had shocked the sports world and led to Jordan's first retirement from basketball. After my father was killed, Jordan said quietly, I was in a dark place. The Bulls organization suggested I do some charity appearances to keep my mind occupied. One of them was at Cook County Hospital's children's ward. Marcus felt a chill run through him. Cook County Hospital, where Sophia worked now, where his brother Mateo had been treated. I remember that day clearly, Jordan continued. The hospital had arranged a Christmas event, even though it was only October. Decorations, gifts for the kids, the whole thing. They thought it might be the last Christmas for some of those children. Marcus's mouth went dry. I think I know which visit you're talking about. Jordan's eyes sharpened, focusing on Marcus's face. You were there, weren't you? My brother was a patient in the children's oncology ward, Marcus said, his voice barely above a whisper. Mateo Reyes. He was 16, fighting leukemia. Jordan nodded slowly. I remember now. You were sitting by a bed where a boy was sleeping, while all the other kids and parents were clamoring for autographs and photos. You stayed put, The memory suddenly crystallized in Marcus's mind. That day in the hospital, Matteo weak from his latest round of chemo, barely able to stay awake. The commotion in the hallway as the greatest basketball player in the world made his way through the ward. Matteo was too tired to get up, Marcus explained, but he was such a huge Bulls fan. I didn't want him to miss meeting you. So I came to him, Jordan finished. I remember kneeling by that bed, talking with you both. You signed his Bulls cap, Marcus said, the details rushing back. And you told him stories about the locker room, things fans never get to hear. He was so happy that day. Jordan smiled slightly. He had good questions. Smart kid. He was. Marcus felt the familiar ache whenever he spoke about Matteo in the past tense. Smarter than me, for sure. What happened to him? Jordan asked gently, though his expression suggested he already knew the answer. He died 2 months later, December 18th. Marcus swallowed hard. The leukemia was too aggressive. Jordan was quiet for a moment. I'm sorry, he finally said. Truly. It was a long time ago, Marcus replied, though they both knew some losses never fully healed. What I remember most, Jordan said, wasn't just meeting your brother. It was what you said to me as I was leaving. Marcus frowned, trying to recall. That day had been emotional, a bright spot in Matteo's difficult final months. The hospital PR people were rushing me to the next room, Jordan explained. But you stopped me at the door. You said, you made my brother forget he was sick today. That's the greatest gift anyone could give us. The words echoed across time, and Marcus remembered saying them, remembered the intensity of his gratitude that day. That stuck with me, Jordan said quietly. I was going through my own grief over my father, feeling sorry for myself, despite all my success and money. And there you were, this college kid facing your brother's illness with such grace. Your words, they helped me that day, more than you could know. Marcus was speechless. The idea that he had somehow helped Michael Jordan seemed impossible. When I saw you at Gibson's, Jordan continued, something about you seemed familiar. It wasn't until later that night that it clicked. I looked up old photos from that hospital visit, and there you were in the background of one of them. So the tip? Marcus began, struggling to make sense of it all. A thank you, Jordan said simply, for a kindness you showed me during one of the hardest times of my life. When I read your letter about your daughter, it felt like things had come full circle somehow. Marcus shook his head in disbelief. But you gave us $10,000. What I said, it was just words. Sometimes words are exactly what someone needs to hear, Jordan replied. And the money, I can afford it. When I learned your daughter has juvenile arthritis, it hit close to home. How so? Jordan hesitated before answering. My former teammate's child was recently diagnosed with something similar. Watching him worry about his kid, seeing the medical bills pile up despite his NBA career, it reminded me that some challenges money can't solve entirely, but it can help ease the burden. They sat in silence for a moment, both processing the strange connection that had brought them together again after all these years. I never expected to be recognized, Marcus finally said. It was such a brief meeting, and it was over 25 years ago. I've trained myself to remember faces, Jordan explained. In my position, you meet thousands of people. The ones who make a genuine impact, they stick with you. Marcus thought about the photograph he'd found in his memory box, the one from the hospital with Jordan barely visible in the background. He'd dismissed it as coincidence, but it had been real all along. How is your daughter doing with her treatments? Jordan asked, changing the subject slightly. Better, Marcus said, grateful to focus on the present. The new medication seems to be helping. She had her first infusion last week. The doctors are hopeful. Good. Kids are resilient. Jordan glanced toward the door where Lucia had exited. She reminds me a little of your brother. That same spark in her eyes. Marcus nodded, feeling a lump form in his throat. He'd thought the same thing many times, but had never said it aloud. Thank you for noticing that. Jordan leaned forward, his expression serious. Listen, I have an idea I want to run by you. My foundation does work with children's health issues. We're planning a charity basketball tournament next month at DePaul, your alma mater. I've heard about it, Marcus said. The tournament had been in the Chicago sports news. We're looking for someone who understands both basketball and families dealing with childhood medical conditions. Someone to help coordinate with the families. Make sure the kids have a great experience regardless of their health challenges. Marcus stared at him, not quite comprehending. You mean like a volunteer position? Jordan shook his head. A paid, consulting role, with potential for something more permanent if it works out. You're offering me a job? Marcus couldn't keep the astonishment from his voice. I'm offering you an opportunity, Jordan corrected. Based on what I've seen, both 25 years ago and now, you're exactly the kind of person we need. Someone who understands what these families are going through. Marcus's mind raced. A job with Jordan's foundation would mean leaving Gibson's, taking a chance on something completely new. But it would also mean using his own painful experiences to help others, creating meaning from loss, just as he'd tried to do all those years ago with Matteo. I don't know what to say, Marcus admitted. Say you'll think about it, Jordan replied. Talk it over with your wife. My assistant will contact you next week with the details. Before Marcus could respond, the door opened and Lucia burst in, her face glowing with excitement. Dad, look, I got 5 more signatures. She held up the re-T2. Basketball proudly. That's wonderful, mija. Marcus smiled, trying to compose himself after the emotional conversation. Jordan smoothly transitioned back into host mode, asking Lucia which players she'd met and what they'd said to her. The serious, reflective man from moments ago was replaced by the charismatic sports icon, making Lucia feel like the most important person in the room. As they prepared to leave, Jordan shook Marcus's hand firmly. Remember what I said. Sometimes the smallest kindnesses have the biggest impact. In the car driving home, Lucia chattered non-stop about meeting her hero, showing off her signed ball and New Jersey. Sophia kept glancing at Marcus, clearly sensing something significant had happened during his private conversation with Jordan. Later, Marcus mouthed to her over Lucia's head. There was too much to explain with their daughter listening. That night, after Lucia was finally asleep, the basketball and jersey carefully placed on her dresser, Marcus told Sophia everything. About Matteo, the hospital visit, the words he'd spoken to Jordan all those years ago, and the job offer. It's incredible, Sophia whispered when he finished. Out of all the people he's met in his life, he remembered you. Marcus nodded, still processing it himself. What do you think about the job offer? Sophia considered the question carefully. I think sometimes life gives us chances to turn our pain into purpose. This might be yours. As Marcus lay in bed that night, he thought about the strange path that had led him here, from the hospital room with Matteo to his injury at DePaul, to serving Jordan's table at Gibson's. Small moments that had seemed insignificant at the time, connecting across decades to create something new. Perhaps this was what healing truly looked like. Not the absence of pain, but its transformation into something meaningful, something that could help others. The week after meeting Jordan at the game, Marcus couldn't stop thinking about their conversation. At Gibson's, he went through the motions of serving tables and taking orders, but his mind kept drifting back to the hospital. Visit 25 years ago. Memories of Mateo that he had carefully tucked away were now at the forefront of his thoughts. On Wednesday evening, Marcus received an email from Andrea Wilson with details about the consulting position. The pay was more than he made at Gibson's, with better hours and benefits. The work would involve coordinating with families of children with chronic illnesses, helping organize their participation in the charity tournament, and potentially developing ongoing programs. "Are you going to take it?" Sophia asked that night after reading the email. "I'm still not sure," Marcus admitted. "Waiting tables is what I know. This would be completely different." Sophia sat beside him on the couch. "But isn't that the point? A chance to do something that matters in a different way?" Marcus nodded slowly. "It feels like Mateo is somehow part of this, like he's still looking out for me, even now." "I've always thought he was," Sophia said gently. She had never met Marcus's brother. They'd started dating 2 years after Mateo's death, but she understood what his loss meant to Marcus. "There's something else," Marcus said. "Working with kids who are sick. I don't know if I'm strong enough for that. It took me years to stop dreaming about the hospital, about Mateo at the end." Sophia took his hand. "That's exactly why you would be good at this job. You understand what these families are going through in a way most people can't." Before Marcus could respond, Lucia appeared in the doorway, her pajamas rumpled from sleep. "My joints hurt," she said quietly, her face pinched with pain. Sophia immediately went to get Lucia's medication, while Marcus helped his daughter to the couch. Nights like this were common, the pain often worse after Lucia had been still for a while. "Want me to tell you a story?" Marcus asked, gently rubbing her shoulders the way she liked when she hurt. Lucia nodded, leaning against him. "Tell me about when you played basketball." Marcus smiled. She always asked for the same stories. "Well, there was this one game against Louisville. We were down by 2 points with 10 seconds left." By the time Sophia returned with the medicine, Lucia was smiling despite her pain, caught up in the excitement of her father's college basketball days. As Marcus watched his daughter slowly fall back asleep on the couch, the medicine finally taking effect, he made his decision. The next day, Marcus called Andrea Wilson and accepted the job offer. 2 weeks later, after training his replacement. At Gibson's, he started his new position with the Jordan Foundation. His first day was overwhelming, learning names, procedures, and the scope of the charity tournament. The event was bigger than he'd imagined, with NBA players, local celebrities, and major sponsors already committed. But as intimidating as it was, Marcus found himself energized by the challenge. His main responsibility was working directly with the families of children with various medical conditions who would be featured at the tournament. Some would participate in special games adapted to their abilities. Others would be honored guests, paired with NBA players as coaches for the day. All would benefit from the funds raised. During his 3rd week on the job, Marcus was surprised when Michael Jordan himself stopped by the Foundation's Chicago office. The employees were used to Jordan's occasional visits, but Marcus still felt a flutter of nervousness when the basketball legend appeared in the doorway of his small office. "How's it going?" Jordan asked, settling into the chair across from Marcus's desk. "Good. Busy, but good," Marcus replied. "The response from families has been amazing. We've already filled all 30 spots for the kids' exhibition game." Jordan nodded, pleased. "I heard you suggested making custom jerseys for each kid with their name and favorite number." "It seemed important," Marcus explained. "When you're a kid with a medical condition, You spend so much time being a patient. This lets them just be basketball players for a day. Jordan studied him for a moment. That's exactly why I wanted you for this job. You get it. He paused. How's Lucia doing with her treatments? Better, Marcus said, touched that Jordan had remembered. The new medication is helping. She has more good days than bad now. Glad to hear it, Jordan said. Then, after a brief hesitation, I've been meaning to ask you something. That day at the hospital with your brother, it was a hard time for both of us. Marcus nodded, waiting for him to continue. After my father was killed, Jordan said quietly, I was angry all the time, at the people who did it, at the world, even at my father for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. He shook his head. Not my proudest moment. That's normal, Marcus said. Grief isn't logical. Maybe. But it was eating me up inside. Jordan leaned forward slightly. When I visited that hospital, I was doing it because my PR team said it would be good for my image. I wasn't in it for the kids, not really. I was too wrapped up in my own pain. Marcus was surprised by Jordan's candor. This wasn't the carefully polished public figure, but a man still processing his own past. But then I saw you with your brother, Jordan continued. The way you put his needs above everything else, even meeting me, which was a big deal back then. He smiled slightly. Still is, I guess. Mateo was always more important than meeting any celebrity, Marcus said simply. That's what hit me, Jordan said. Here I was, feeling sorry for myself, and there you were, facing something just as terrible but handling it with so much more grace. When you thanked me for making your brother forget he was sick, it was the first genuine moment I'd felt since my father died. Marcus was speechless. The idea that he had somehow helped Michael Jordan through his grief had never occurred to him. I went back to my car after that hospital visit and cried for the first time since the funeral, Jordan admitted. Not just for my father, but for those kids, for your brother. It helped me start to heal. I had no idea, Marcus finally said. How? Could you? You were dealing with your own family crisis. Jordan straightened in his chair. The point is, sometimes we help each other through hard times without even knowing it. That's what connected us back then, and what connects us now with this tournament. Shared pain, transformed into something better. Marcus recognized his own. Thoughts from the night after the Bulls game echoed in Jordan's words. How did you handle it? Marcus asked. After your father, I mean. How did you move forward? Jordan considered the question. Basketball helped, having something to pour myself into. But mostly, it was time and purpose. Finding ways to honor his memory by living the way he'd want me to live. That's what I tried to do with Mateo, Marcus said. Go to college, make something of myself like he always said I would. But after my knee injury, you lost your purpose, Jordan finished for him. For a while, yeah. But then I met Sophia, and later we had Lucia. Marcus smiled. They became my new purpose. And now you have this too, Jordan said, gesturing to the office around them. Using your experience to help other families. That's a powerful legacy for your brother. They talked for another half hour. No longer basketball legend and foundation employee, but two men who understood loss, resilience, and the long road of grief. Jordan shared stories about his father that he rarely discussed publicly, and Marcus talked about Mateo's last days, including moments of unexpected joy amid the sorrow. As Jordan prepared to leave, he paused at the door. By the way, I meant to tell you, I've invited some of my former teammates to the tournament, including the one I mentioned whose child has juvenile arthritis. I think you two might have a lot to talk about." After Jordan left, Marcus sat quietly at his desk, processing their conversation. It struck him how similar they were despite their vastly different lives. Both had experienced profound loss. Both had found their paths altered by circumstances beyond their control. And both had eventually found ways to create meaning from their pain. That evening, as Marcus helped Lucia with her homework, she asked out of nowhere, "Dad, do you think Tio Mateo would have liked Mr. Jordan?" Marcus looked at his daughter in surprise. He had told Lucia about her uncle, of course, but they didn't talk about him often. "Why do you ask?" Lucia shrugged. "I was just thinking about him because of your new job. Mom said it's helping kids who are sick, like Tio Mateo was." "Yes, it is," Marcus said. "And yes, I think Mateo would have loved meeting Michael Jordan. He was the biggest Bulls fan I knew." "Even bigger than me?" Lucia asked with a grin. "Well, maybe not quite that big," Marcus laughed, tapping her nose. "You're the champion Bulls fan of all time." That night, Marcus dreamed of Mateo again. But for the first time in years, it wasn't a dream filled with hospitals and sickness. Instead, they were playing basketball together on a sun-drenched court, both healthy, both whole. When he woke, Marcus found his face wet with tears, not of sorrow, but of peace. The following week was a whirlwind of activity as the tournament approached. Marcus worked long hours, but unlike his time at Gibson's, he returned home each night, feeling energized rather than drained. The purpose behind the work made all the difference. The charity tournament was scheduled for a Saturday in mid-June at DePaul University's Sullivan Athletic Center. As Marcus walked onto the campus where he had once played basketball, memories flooded back, some bittersweet, others filled with the excitement of his college days before the injury. The university had donated the use of their facilities, and the main arena had been transformed. Banners with the Jordan Foundation logo hung alongside photos of the children who would be participating. Each child's picture was accompanied by their name, age, and medical condition, a reminder of why they were all there. Marcus had arrived at 6 a.m. to oversee final preparations. The event would include a celebrity game with former NBA players, a children's exhibition where kids with various medical conditions would play alongside college athletes, and a silent auction of sports memorabilia to raise additional funds. By 8 a.m., families began arriving, and Marcus greeted each one personally. He had spent weeks getting to know these children and their parents, learning their stories, understanding their challenges. There was 10-year-old Jamal, who was in remission from leukemia, 7-year-old Olivia, who used a wheelchair due to spina bifida but had developed incredible upper body strength, and 12-year-old Miguel, who, like Lucia, was fighting juvenile arthritis. Sophia and Lucia arrived at 9:30 a.m. Lucia was using her crutches today. The excitement had kept her up late the night before, making her joints stiff and sore this morning. But her face was radiant with excitement. "Dad, this is so cool!" she exclaimed, looking around at the arena with its professional lighting and cameras from local news stations. "Do I get to play, too?" "You sure do," Marcus said, kneeling to hug her. "You're on the red team with Coach Williams from DePaul." Lucia's eyes widened. She had been practicing her shooting form at home, determined to make at least one basket despite her condition. Sophia squeezed Marcus's hand. "This is amazing, Marcus. You've helped create something special here." Before he could respond, Andrea Wilson approached with a clipboard. "Marcus, Mr. Jordan just arrived. He wants to see you in the VIP room before things kick off." Marcus found Jordan surrounded by former Bulls and Hornets players, all chatting and laughing together. Jordan spotted him and waved him over. "Marcus, Just in time. There's someone I want you to meet." He guided Marcus toward a tall man standing near the window, a face Marcus recognized immediately from the Bulls' second championship run. "This is Tony Sanders. Tony, this is Marcus Reyes, the coordinator I told you about." Tony Sanders extended his hand. "Good to meet you, Marcus. Michael says you're the reason this whole event came together." "He's exaggerating," Marcus said, shaking the former player's hand. "I'm just one part of a big team." "Don't sell yourself short," Jordan interjected. "Tony's daughter Kira has juvenile arthritis, like your Lucia." Tony's expression softened. "Michael mentioned that. How old is your daughter?" 8, Marcus replied. "She was diagnosed 3 years ago." "Kira was 6 when we found out," Tony said. "She's 11 now. It's been a journey, man." For the next 15 minutes, they talked like any two parents of children with chronic illness, comparing medications, doctors, insurance battles, and small victories. Marcus found himself sharing struggles with Tony that he rarely discussed outside his immediate family. "It helps to talk with someone who gets it," Tony said. "Most people mean well, but unless you've been up all night with a kid in pain, you can't really understand," Marcus finished. "Exactly. That's why this tournament matters," Jordan said, rejoining them after greeting other guests. "It's not just about raising money, it's about bringing people together who can support each other." At 10:30 a.m., the event officially began. Jordan gave a welcome speech that was brief but heartfelt, thanking everyone for supporting the children and their families. Then the activities started, beginning with the kids' exhibition game. Marcus watched proudly as Lucia took the court with her team, her custom red jersey matching her determined expression. The rules had been adapted so that children with various abilities could participate: lower hoops for some, helpers for others, and modified scoring that rewarded effort as much as results. When Lucia made her first basket, a clean shot that barely touched the rim before going in, Marcus and Sophia leapt to their feet, cheering wildly. The crowd joined in, applauding each child's accomplishments with genuine enthusiasm. By midday, the celebrity game was underway. Jordan didn't play. His competitive days were behind him, but he coached one of the teams, shouting instructions and encouragement from the sideline. The crowd roared as former NBA stars put on a show, playing hard enough to be entertaining, but ensuring the focus remained on the cause rather than competition. During a break between games, Marcus received an unexpected call from Dr. Patel, Lucia's specialist. Stepping into a quiet hallway, he answered with concern. Doctors rarely called on weekends unless something was wrong. "Mr. Reyes, I've been reviewing Lucia's latest test results," Dr. Patel said without preamble. "I wanted to let you know right away." Marcus's heart raced. "Is something wrong?" "Actually, quite the opposite," the doctor replied, his voice warm. "The new treatment is showing remarkable results. Her inflammation markers have decreased by over 40% since we started." Marcus leaned against the wall, relief washing over him. That's wonderful news." "It is," Dr. Patel agreed. "If this trend continues, we might see significant improvement in her mobility and reduction in pain within a few months. The medication is working better than I'd hoped." After thanking the doctor and promising to schedule a follow-up appointment, Marcus returned to the arena with a lightness in his step. He found Sophia watching the celebrity game with Lucia, who was now resting in her wheelchair after her exertion on the court. "Everything okay?" Sophia asked, noting his expression. Marcus knelt beside them. "Dr. Patel just called. Lucia's latest tests look great. The treatment is working." Sophia's hand flew to her mouth. "Really? Better than expected?" Marcus nodded, his eyes filling with tears. "Much better." "Does that mean I might not need my crutches soon?" Lucia asked, understanding enough to grasp what this meant. "It's possible, Mija," Marcus said cautiously. "We still have to be patient, but this is very good news." As the day continued, Marcus found himself looking around the arena with a sense of wonder. The tournament had exceeded all expectations. The silent auction items were drawing high bids, local celebrities were tweeting about the event, and most importantly, the children were having the time of their lives. Late in the afternoon, as the event was winding down, Jordan found Marcus supervising the cleanup of the children's area. "We did it," Jordan said, satisfaction evident in his voice. "Early numbers suggest we've raised over $2 million. "That's incredible," Marcus replied, amazed. "That will fund a lot of research and treatment programs." Jordan nodded, then lowered his voice. "I saw you talking with Tony earlier. What did you think?" "He's great," Marcus said sincerely. "It helps to connect with another parent who understands what we're going through with Lucia." "That's what I thought," Jordan said with a nod. "Which is why I want to expand this program. Not just an annual tournament, but ongoing support groups, regular activities for the kids, maybe even a camp next summer." "That sounds amazing," Marcus agreed. "I want you to run it," Jordan said simply. "Full-time, permanent position, building something that will last." Marcus stared at him. "Me? But I've only been with the foundation for a few weeks. And in that time, you've shown exactly why you're the right person for this," Jordan countered. "You understand these families because you're living it. You know basketball. And you care, not just about the work, but about the people." Before Marcus could respond, they were interrupted by Lucia, who came wheeling over excitedly. "Dad! Mr. Jordan! Did you see? They put my picture on the big screen during the game." "I sure did," Jordan said, kneeling down to her level as he had during their first meeting. "You were the star of the show today, Lucia," she beamed at him. "Mom said I can put my jersey in a frame on my wall, right next to my Bulls one." "Excellent idea," Jordan approved. He glanced up at Marcus. "Think about what I said, okay? We'll talk more next week." That evening, as they drove home, Lucia fell asleep in the back seat, clutching her participant medal. Sophia reached over and took Marcus's hand. "You know, when you got that tip from Jordan, I thought it was just amazing luck," she said quietly. "Now I see it was something more. It was the beginning of a new chapter for all of us." Marcus squeezed her hand. "I never imagined waiting tables at Gibson's would lead to this." "You deserve it," Sophia said firmly. "And think of all the families you'll be helping if you take this new position." "If?" Marcus glanced at her, then back at the road. "You think I should do it, don't you?" "I think this work makes you happier than I've seen you in years," Sophia replied. "And I think Mateo would be so proud of what you're doing." Marcus nodded, letting her words sink in. As they drove through the Chicago evening, he thought about the strange journey that had brought him here. From the hospital room with Mateo, to the restaurant table with Jordan, to today's successful tournament, none of it had been planned or expected. Yet somehow, all of it felt right, as if the pain of his past had been quietly preparing him for this moment all along. 1 year later, Marcus stood in the same DePaul University gymnasium, watching as workers hung banners for the second annual Jordan Foundation Children's Health Tournament. So much had changed in 12 months that sometimes he could hardly believe it himself. He had accepted Jordan's offer of a permanent position, of course. The decision had been easy after seeing the impact of that first tournament. Now, as program director for Youth Health Initiatives, Marcus oversaw not just the annual event, but a whole range of activities. monthly play days for children with chronic illnesses, support groups for parents, and a weekend camp program they had launched in the spring. Marcus checked his watch. The tournament would begin in 2 hours, and he still had a dozen details to finalize. This year's event was even bigger than the first, with more celebrity participants, more corporate sponsors, and most importantly, more families benefiting from their programs. "Need a hand with anything?" asked a familiar voice. Marcus turned to see Tony Sanders approaching. Over the past year, Tony had become more than just a former NBA player with a shared experience. He was now a close friend and a regular volunteer with the foundation. "I think we're on schedule," Marcus replied. "How's Kira doing today?" "Excited to be coaching instead of playing this year," Tony said with a smile. "She's taking her role very seriously. Made a clipboard and everything." Marcus laughed. "Lucia's the same way. You'd think they were coaching in the NBA Finals." The two men walked together across the court, surveying the preparations. Their daughters had formed a fast friendship, bonded by their shared experience with juvenile arthritis. Both girls had good days and bad days with their condition, but both had also made significant progress with their treatments. "Hard to believe it's been a year since all this started," Tony remarked. "Sometimes it feels like yesterday," Marcus agreed. "Other times, it feels like I've been doing this my whole life." They were interrupted by Marcus's phone ringing, Sophia calling from home. "Hey, we're leaving now," she said when he answered. "Lucia wants to know if she should bring both jerseys or just wear the Hornets one." "Tell her to bring both," Marcus suggested. Jordan mentioned he has something special planned for the kids today, so she might want options. After hanging up, Marcus continued his inspection of the venue. The silent auction area was larger this year, with signed memorabilia from not just basketball stars, but celebrities from across the sports and entertainment world. Local businesses had donated services and products. Even Gibson's Steakhouse, his former workplace, had contributed gift certificates. Around noon, families began arriving. Marcus greeted each one personally, remembering names and details about their children's conditions and interests. Many were returning participants from the previous year, eager to share updates on their health and treatment progress. Others were new to the program, nervous but hopeful about what the day might bring. Lucia arrived with Sophia at 12:30, no longer using crutches or a wheelchair. After a year of the new treatment, her condition had improved dramatically. She still had occasional flare-ups and would always need to manage her arthritis, but the difference was remarkable. Today she walked confidently beside her mother, carrying a small backpack with her Bulls and Hornets jerseys. "Dad," she called, running to hug him. "Is Mr. Jordan here yet?" "Not yet, but he will be soon," Marcus promised, lifting her for a quick spin that would have been impossible a year ago. "He's looking forward to seeing you," Lucia nodded seriously. "I've been practicing my coaching voice. Want to hear it?" She put her hands on her hips and called out, "Good hustle! Set the screen! Defense!" in a comically deep voice that made Marcus and Sophia laugh. "Sounds like you're ready," Marcus said, setting her down. "Your team is lucky to have such an experienced coach." As Lucia ran off to find Kira, Sophia slipped her arm through Marcus's. "How are you feeling? Nervous about your speech?" "A little," he admitted. Jordan had asked him to address the crowd during the opening ceremony, sharing his personal connection to the Foundation's mission. "I keep rewriting it in my head." "Just speak from the heart," Sophia advised. "That's what you do best." The tournament officially began at 2:00 p.m. The gymnasium was packed with spectators, participants, and media. Local news channels were covering the event, and several sports networks had sent camera crews. The Foundation's profile had risen significantly since last year, thanks in part to Jordan's continued involvement and the powerful stories of the children they helped. Jordan arrived just before the opening ceremony, causing a stir as he always did. Despite his fame, he moved through the crowd with genuine warmth, stopping to speak with children and parents, remembering names and details from previous interactions. When he reached Marcus and Sophia, he greeted them like old friends. "Years. Place looks amazing," Jordan said, surveying the transformed gymnasium. "Even better than last year." "We had a good foundation to build on," Marcus replied, the word choice making all three of them smile. Jordan nodded toward the main entrance, where a new addition to the event was being unveiled, a memorial wall honoring children who had lost their battles with illness. That was a great idea, by the way. Important to remember why we're doing this. Marcus swallowed hard. He had suggested the memorial wall, thinking of Matteo and the many other children who didn't get the chance to grow up. Among the photos on the wall was a picture of his brother, smiling despite the hospital bed, wearing his beloved Bulls cap, the one Jordan had signed all those years ago. At 2:30 p.m., the opening ceremony began. After welcoming remarks from DePaul's athletic director and a brief speech from Jordan, it was Marcus's turn to address the crowd. As he stepped up to the microphone, he saw Lucia in the front row, giving him a thumbs up beside Sophia. "A little over a year ago," Marcus began, "I was waiting tables at Gibson's Steakhouse when Michael Jordan came in for dinner. That night changed my family's life in ways I never could have imagined." He went on to tell the story of the generous tip and what it had meant for Lucia's treatment. Then, taking a deep breath, he shared the rest. The hospital visit. 25 years earlier, his brother Matteo, and the unexpected connection that had brought him and Jordan together again. "What I've learned through this journey is that kindness creates ripples we may never see," Marcus said. "A word of gratitude I spoke to Michael Jordan decades ago somehow found its way back to my family when we needed it most. And now, through this foundation, we're trying to create new ripples of hope and help for other families facing similar challenges." As he concluded his speech, Marcus glanced toward the memorial wall where Matteo's photo hung. "Today we celebrate not just the children who are here with us, but those whose memories inspire us to make a difference. Thank you all for being part of this community of support and hope." The applause was heartfelt. As Marcus stepped away from the microphone, he saw Jordan nodding with approval, Sophia wiping away tears, and Lucia beaming with pride. The day's events unfolded with the same energy and emotion as the previous year, but with the added confidence of experience. The children's exhibition games were once again the highlight, with Lucia and Kira coaching from the sidelines with impressive authority for 11- and 9-year-olds. During a break in the activities, Marcus found a quiet moment to visit the ABA memorial wall. He stood before Matteo's photo, remembering his brother's courage and humor even in his final days. "He would be so proud of you," Sophia said, appearing beside him and slipping her hand into his. "I hope so," Marcus replied. "Sometimes I still can't believe how everything connected. Matteo, Jordan, Lucia's condition, this foundation. Like pieces of a puzzle finally fitting together." "That's how life works sometimes," Sophia said. "The hardest pieces often create the most beautiful pictures in the end." Later that evening, as the tournament was winding down, Jordan hosted a small gathering in a private room for the foundation staff and a few special guests. Lucia and Kira were included, both girls thrilled to be part of the grown-up event. Jordan raised his glass of sparkling cider, a choice made deliberately so the children could participate in the toast. "To a successful second year, and many more to come." After everyone had clinked glasses, Jordan motioned for Marcus to join him. "I've got something to show you," he said, leading him to a side table where a leather portfolio lay. Inside was a proposal for a new initiative, a nationwide expansion of their programs, with regional tournaments in cities across the country, and a permanent summer camp facility for children with chronic illnesses. "What do you think?" Jordan asked. "Ready to take this to the next level?" Marcus scanned the documents, his heart racing with excitement and a touch of intimidation. "This is ambitious." "That's the only way to make a real difference," Jordan replied. "We've proven the concept works here in Chicago. Now it's time to help more families across the country." As Marcus considered the proposal, he felt a tug on his sleeve. Lucia was standing beside him, her face flushed with happiness from the day's events. "Dad, can we do this again next year?" she asked. "Kira and I want to be coaches again, but maybe for different teams so we can compete against each other." Marcus smiled, looking from his daughter to Jordan and back again. "I think we'll definitely be doing this again, Miha. In fact, we might be doing even more." That night, as they drove home, Lucia fell asleep in the back seat, just as she had a year earlier. But this time, instead of clutching a participant medal, she held a small trophy inscribed with Coach of the Year. Marcus caught Sophia's eye, and they shared a smile. Who could have imagined that a $10,000 tip would lead to this new life? Not just the improved treatment for Lucia, but a purpose that honored Mateo's memory and helped countless other families. As he pulled into their driveway, Marcus thought about the strange, wonderful path that had brought them here. From tragedy had come connection. From a chance encounter had come opportunity. From shared pain had come healing, not just for his family, but for so many others. Sometimes, he reflected, the smallest kindnesses really did matter most. The second annual charity tournament had been even more successful than the first, raising nearly $3 million for children's health initiatives. As Marcus reviewed the final numbers in his office a week later, he felt a deep sense of satisfaction. The foundation was growing, reaching more families, making a real difference. His phone buzzed with a text from Jordan. "Need you at the DePaul gym tomorrow at 10 a.m. Special visitor coming. Important." Marcus was intrigued. They weren't scheduled to meet until next week to discuss the nationwide expansion plans. Who could this special visitor be? The next morning, Marcus arrived at the gymnasium to find Jordan waiting alone, sitting on the bleachers with a thoughtful expression. "Thanks for coming," Jordan said as Marcus approached. "There's someone I want you to meet. She should be here any minute." "Who is it?" Marcus asked, settling beside him. "An old friend," Jordan replied cryptically. "Someone from Cook County Hospital." Before Marcus could ask more questions, the gymnasium doors opened, and an elderly African-American woman entered. She walked slowly but purposefully, her back straight despite her years. Though her hair was now white, there was something familiar about her face. Jordan stood to greet her. "Harriet, thank you for coming." "Michael Jordan," she said, shaking his hand firmly. "Still as handsome as ever." Jordan smiled. "Harriet, this is Marcus Reyes, the foundation director I told you about." The woman turned to Marcus, studying his face. "Of course I remember you. Mateo's brother." Marcus froze. You know me?" "Harriet Thompson," she said, extending her hand. "I was head nurse on the pediatric oncology floor at Cook County for over 40 years before I retired. I was there the day Michael visited." Marcus shook her hand, memories flooding back. "Nurse Thompson, I do remember you. You used to sneak extra ice cream to Mateo when his appetite was bad." She nodded, pleased. "I did indeed. Had to bend the rules sometimes for my special patients." Jordan gestured for them all to sit. "Harriet called me after seeing coverage of last year's tournament on the news. She recognized you, Marcus." "I couldn't believe my eyes," Harriet said. "There you were, talking about your brother and this foundation. It felt like things coming full circle." "That's exactly how it feels," Marcus agreed, "like all these pieces connecting across time." Harriet exchanged a glance with Jordan. "There's something you should know, Marcus. Something that never made it into the official story." Marcus looked between them, confused. "What do you mean?" "After Michael's visit to the children's ward that day," Harriet began, "he did something that wasn't publicized, something only a few of us on staff knew about." Jordan looked down at his hands, suddenly appearing uncomfortable with the attention. "What was it?" Marcus asked, his curiosity growing. Harriet's eyes were kind but direct. "He paid for Mateo's remaining hospital expenses. All of them." Marcus stared at her, unable to process what she'd just said. What?" "It's true," she continued. "The day after his visit, the hospital received an anonymous donation specifically designated for Mateo Reyes's medical care. It covered everything: treatments, medications, even the private room your parents couldn't afford. But Mateo needed because of his compromised immune system." Marcus turned to Jordan, who was still looking down. "You did that? Why didn't you ever say anything?" "It was anonymous for a reason," Jordan said quietly. "I didn't want publicity for it. That wasn't the point. But all these years..." Marcus shook his head, trying to make sense of this revelation. "My parents struggled so much with those bills. They took out a second mortgage on their house. I always thought..." "They still had bills," Harriet clarified. "The donation covered about 70% of Mateo's hospital expenses. But it made a significant difference." Marcus sat in stunned silence. All those years ago, long before the $10,000 tip at Gibson's, Jordan had already helped his family in a profound way, and none of them had ever known. "I kept the secret all these years," Harriet said, "but when I saw you working together, I felt you should know the full story." "Why?" Marcus finally asked Jordan. "You didn't know us. We were just one of many families you met that day." Jordan was quiet for a moment. "Your brother's attitude stuck with me. So sick, but still full of life. Asking me basketball questions like we were just two guys talking sports. And you, the way you put him first, stayed by his side instead of trying to get my attention like everyone else." He shrugged slightly. "It felt right to help." Marcus felt tears welling in his eyes. "I never knew." "You weren't supposed to," Jordan said simply. "Sometimes kindness works best that way." The three of them talked for another hour. Harriet shared stories about Mateo that Marcus had never heard. His jokes with the nurses, his friendship with other children on the ward, the way he always asked how others were feeling despite his own pain. She had kept track of some of her former patients over the years, but had lost touch with Marcus's family after Mateo passed. As they prepared to leave, Harriet took Marcus's hand in both of hers. "Your brother would be so proud of what you're doing now. Using your own pain to help other families, that's exactly who he was too." Later that day, Marcus sat alone in his office, still processing what he had learned. The revelation that Jordan had helped his family even before they reconnected at Gibson's added another layer to their intertwined story. He picked up a framed photo on his desk, Lucia at the recent tournament, standing tall without crutches, or a wheelchair, her coach's whistle around her neck, flanked by Jordan and Marcus himself. Beside it was an older picture, Marcus and Mateo on a basketball court years ago, both grinning at the camera, arms around each other's shoulders, past and present, loss and healing, giving and receiving. The $10,000 tip that had changed their lives had never been random at all. It had been just one link in a chain of kindness that stretched back decades, connecting people through moments of compassion that echoed through time. Marcus finally understood the full meaning of the note Jordan had included with that tip. Sometimes, the smallest kindnesses matter most, because sometimes those small kindnesses weren't small at all. Sometimes they were the beginning of something much bigger than anyone could imagine. A ripple effect of goodness that continued long after the initial act was forgotten. And sometimes, those ripples came full circle, bringing healing not just to those who received kindness, but to those who gave it as well. Where are you listening from? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this emotional true life story, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring content just like this. We share new stories every week that will move you, motivate you, and remind you of the good that exists in our world. Don't forget to share this video with your friends and family. Spreading stories of kindness and compassion creates ripples that can change lives, just like Marcus and Michael Jordan discovered. Remember, sometimes the smallest kindnesses really do matter most. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next story.